Hello and welcome to the Ruby and Roses channel. My name is Addie and I am the yarn dyer behind Ruby and Roses Yarn. And in this video today, I'm going to be sort of doing a continuation on last week's video. I'm going to be sharing colorway development information. However, it's going to be geared towards advents. So it's something that I do every year. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with what Christmas advents are in the yarn dyeing world, it's basically where dyers will create 25 normally unique, one-of-a-kind colorways that have a certain theme or a certain color palette that really adds some inspiration to your making during the Christmas season. So from December 1st through the 25th, where each colorway will be individually packaged. And in my case, I like to package them in red and green velvet bags that are all hand stamped with what day to open it. So it's just a really carefree making experience that's really curated to add some inspiration, like I said, to the most wonderful time of the year. So I'm going to be starting dyeing up those colorways in this video. So I dyed the very first colorway yesterday, and I have a palette as well as inspiration photos that I will be sharing and sort of talking a little bit about how I draw inspiration from a photo in particular and sort of what aspects I look for and just sort of how I pull color from certain photos that I see, and just sometimes from the recesses of my brain even. I'm just whatever color I'm going for at the moment. So I will go ahead and get started and show you a little bit of behind the scenes of Advent information. So I also wanted to mention that I will not be giving away any spoiler alerts in this video. When I'm actually showing the colorway, I will be doing it black and white. So for those of you that are living for the surprise of Advent, you can watch this video with a safe conscience because I will not be giving away any of that information. So without further ado, let's get started. Now I have all my pans laid out, as you can see, and I'm ready to start dyeing. However, I wanted to give you a little bit of a brief on how I pick inspiration for a specific photo. So I normally have two sets of inspiration photos. So one set is sort of like the game plan of the entire project that I'm going to be working on, or just like the main sort of broad stroke inspiration photos. And then I'll have some that are more detailed, like specifically to speckling. So I sort of group it up into two separate things just because I find that to be easiest for my creative style, but I just wanted to kind of share that info with you. And I think this will also be really useful if you're planning color combos for your project or color combos for intarsia or color work. I think that would be a really helpful technique to have some that are more broad spectrum colors, and then some that are more of what you want your speckles to look like, or what you want little intricate parts of your color work design, what colors you want them to be. So just kind of wanted to throw that out there since I thought that would be a really helpful tip. But I'm going to show you all of the colors of the broad color palettes that I'm going to be using. So they're up now, as you can see, and these are going to be the color palette that the entire Advent is going to look like. So when you look at the Advent, and this one in particular is going to be what you will see. So I'm really going to strive to make it as true to that photo as possible, because I really fell in love with the color combos that it encompassed. So now this is going to be a ton of photos popping up all over the screen that display the different speckling colors and the different speckling techniques that I'm going to be using. So for instance, today we are going to be dealing with this photo in particular, and I'm going to be pulling a lot of the different fun colors in it to bring it onto the speckling. So a lot of those colors will be in the speckling of the colorway that I'm dyeing today. However, the base coat is going to be a specific color on the first inspiration photo that I shared. So just kind of that little, just a little bit of info with that, because otherwise you might be kind of confused with what I am doing, since I'm pulling from so many different things at once. And hopefully this helps with deciding if you've been on the fence whether or not to purchase an Advent because you don't know what it'll look like. Hopefully this will be a good deciding factor. If you like that color palette, chances are you are going to be obsessed with what this looks like, because I can already see it visualized in my head, and I cannot wait for December 25th when everyone will have the entire Advent opened and get to see how it turned out. But in the meantime, enjoy these black and white teasers, and let me know in the comments if you have any questions in particular about the Advent, and questions that are holding you back from purchasing one. I would love to answer, and I would be thrilled to help you decide. My base coat complete. I've left a little bit of white spots on purpose to be able to let a lot of the dye colors shine through. So for instance, I'm going to be using this really cool saffron orange, which I love to blend with a fluorescent pink. That is going to be one of the techniques I'm using. But first things first, I'm going to be pouring a really light spearmint as well as a lime green over the entire pan. After that, I plan to speckle a periwinkle blue that really is a dye that breaks. So what that means in the yarn dyeing world is if you speckle a certain colorway and it breaks off into the different dye molecules that make up this dye powder. So for instance, this periwinkle blue consists of a light, almost baby pink, as well as a really shocking royal blue. So that's a really fun thing that I love to speckle with, because you not only get the effects of a periwinkle, but you also get the blue and light pink layers. After that, I plan to speckle with some more dyes that I have down here. For instance, we have a really pretty purple, which is super saturated and an intense jewel tone. I love to use this as an accent color because it's really vivid. Vivid colors catch your eye and just add a ton to the colorway itself. So I use this sparingly when I do use it. I also have a juniper green as well that I will be speckling on to encompass a lot of the different green hues in this picture. So that's just a little brief overview of what I'm going to be pulling out of this picture in particular. And of course, I will be throwing in a few more colors as I see fit while I'm speckling. So time to start working the magic. An hour and a half later, here we are. I love the way this colorway turned out. It looks so beautiful in real life, and I wish I could show it to you without having to wait a few months for its release, but trust me, I'm obsessed with it. It just turned out beautifully. So I also think it's going to be gorgeous knit up into the pattern that I'm designing, because I've designed it sort of in a linear effect, as you can see by the video, but I really love the way that that specific dye style knit up in day 2 of the design. So I sort of wanted to kind of do that with day 2 of the actual advent, since you're going to be using a shawl pattern that I'm currently designing for it, which also comes in the Christmas advent kit. So that's also very exciting. But now it's time to load all of these into my oven, and thank you so much for coming along on this advent dyeing creating journey. So speaking of advents, the other day I was trying to buy the foam necessary to package them in like the boxes when I ship them all to you, and I clicked on the link that was sent by the supplier that I was going with, and I didn't realize that it was for like massive amounts of candles and way more than I have for advents. So I purchased like the amount that they requested, and this is what I got. I'll show you after this, but it's the most foam I've ever seen in my life. So yeah, after my heart started back up, we called them and got it all worked out to able to return it. But in the meantime, this is something really funny that happened at the studio. Things are never boring around here. Okay, are you ready to see so much foam? Here they are. They're like taller than me, and I'm like 5'10", so it's a ton of foam. Luckily they're gonna take it back, but yeah, here it is. Now my oven is here. We've got them barely in, and now we are trapped right